So with our initial assessment, we're beginning to understand what the data looks like. We did some descriptive statistics, saw some ranges, so we're beginning to see understand the data. But what's really even more helpful is to be able to view the data graphically. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create a series of bar plots. And we're using bar plots since this is going to be really categorical data. We do a histogram if there's were numeric data. So in this case, it's categorical data. So we're going to create a series of bar plots to be able to view the data so we can understand, really get a better picture of what the data looks like. So what we have here is the command that we issue in order to execute a bar plot. And this is using the ggplot2 library, so we had to make sure that was loaded in this script. So what we do is we execute the command ggplot, and we're executing this on our survey data frame. And then we identify the aesthetics. And this plot, we're going to, on the x-axis, we're going to plot out the term name. And really what we're looking at is frequencies of the different term names. And we're going to identify that bar that it's going to be using to indicate frequencies. We're going to color that in. We're going to fill that in using this color code. And actually, this color code is St. Scholastica Blue. It's going to be kind of fun to use that. And then we're also going to place the count on slightly above that bar. So we're going to place that count with a label of count, and we're going to just have this slightly above the top of the bar. So rather than inside the bar, it's going to be just above that. So let's go ahead and execute this first bar plot to see what it looks like. So Control Enter, and what happens is we see that over here in your lower right hand corner is where the bar plot appears. And we can zoom in on that, click on zoom, and it fills the screen. And we have a good view of the bar plot. So these are the different term names. Now it doesn't show, the way we built this, we are not specifying to see each of the x-axis values, but we can kind of infer what they would be so that we can see, though, the number of response that we have for each of these terms. So not just seeing them graphically, but also seeing the counts as well. So this bar plot was simply executed from this command that we issued right here. So let's try this again for year. So we're going to create a bar plot, and it's actually the same command, but just replacing term name with year. So if we do that, we can see over here the year and the distribution of the years from 2013 all the way to 2018. And now let's look at the different questions. Now this is going to look a little bit different because we have so many different question IDs. It's not going to be a pretty plot. So when we hit Enter, we can see all the different questions, and we can see this is where we can see that some of the questions are used more frequently than others. And this would indicate that these are the questions really that we want to use in our analysis because there's so many responses. Whereas these questions were not used all the time and looks like less than 500 instances. So I think those are going to be outside of scope, where these will be the questions that we will look at. Next, let's take a look at the question categories. So Control Enter. And we can see here that there's categories of course, faculty questions, instructor questions, and then the relative counts for each of those. Faculty questions really are not going to be looked at in this analysis. And next we're going to look at question types. There we can see there's a different sets of question types. Now right now it's kind of the bar plot's too small to really see, so if we click on zoom we can better see the assessment, introduction, instructor questions at the graduate level, open-ended questions, and planning and preparation. So those are the different types of questions that are asked in the survey. All right, so then next we're going to plot the different campuses. So Control Enter, and we can see there's main and online and the relative counts for each of those. And then finally, let's take a look at the responses. So what we see here, let me zoom in on this one. So if we zoom in on this, we can see that we we certainly are getting more data, more responses in the strongly agree categories, but this looks a little awkward that it's really not in the order in which we typically see Likert scale responses. So what we're going to do is we're going to redo this plot to put these in the proper order. So we should see strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree in that order. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute this command right here. And this is going to define the order in which the data is going to be ordered on our plot. So first we kind of have to execute that command. Now it's going to resort that order. So then when we plot this, here's the command that we have to plot to make sure that we have this mapping command in here as well, so that it's going to use that sort order when it's displayed in our bar plot. So when we hit Control Enter, we can see that we have them in proper order. One other thing that I made is I changed the fill to automatically fill so that each of the columns is a different color based on the survey response. So before all of the columns were St. Scholastica blue. Now what I did is I had ggplot automatically color it, but making the color different for each value. So if I zoom in on this, we see that we have them in a better order, where they're moving from strongly disagree all the way up to agree. We also have these outliers here, but we move them off to the left. But this way, it's in a better order, and this kind of is a lot easier to see the trends that we are much more weighted towards the strongly agree. And then we can also see here's a legend here. So ggplot did all that for us with that command. So as you can see, ggplot is a great way to visualize the data, and we can gain a lot of insight on our data through the visualization of through these bar plots. So it's a great tool, and I strongly encourage you to use that in your data assessment.